So, yeah, I did a couple of different things. One of them was to basically go through Bracket Matrix, and I looked at every team that is an 8 through a 10 seed, excuse me. So if the Aggies are a 7 seed, they'll face one of these 10 seeds. If they're in the 8-9 matchup, they'll play one of these teams that is either an 8 or a 9 seed. And then I went and plugged it into Haslametrics'. You can take any team, and whether it's home, neutral, or away, get this kind of automatic computer projection of who would win, what would the score be. There's a whole bunch of stuff you can dive into, and it's all free. If you want to do it yourself, just haslametrics.com. You can do a deep dive on any of these for free. And so I looked at, okay, who would be the best matchups? Anyone 8 to 10 seed. I even looked at who would be the best potential second round matchups, because you're looking at a 1 or a 2 seed, and spoiler alert, none of them end well. But yeah, some of them actually are maybe a little closer than you might expect. But I'll say this, Eric. Well, I guess you're already looking at the sheet, so you already know the answer to this one. But the best matchup, apparently, according to Haslametrics for the first round, would be UCF, currently projected as an 8 seed. All of these are very close margins. Some of them are within a point. Some of them within a tenth of a point in margin. But Haslametrics has the Aggies in a theoretical matchup, again, on a neutral site court. They would have them beating UCF by just over 3 points, basically 80 to 77.
Yeah, interesting matchup there. UCF, kind of a wildly...
They're kind of inconsistent.
Wild variance, yeah, with them.
Yeah, they did put the smackdown on BYU the other day.
Yeah, so they can beat good teams, but they can also get dominated.
Yeah, they've been kind of... They're fairly similar to where TCU was, where they were an inconsistent team with that TCU team that the Aggies beat. Under Danny Sprinkle. There are a few teams that Haslametrics has the Aggies beating by a little bit more than one. Missouri, that would be interesting, where it would be a rematch of a few years ago where the Aggies lost by considerable margin. Then you have Miami of Florida, got to specify that. That one, again, about 1.5 points. SMU, a 10 seed. This is actually the best matchup against a 10 seed would be SMU, just basically 1.5 points there, 81-79 essentially. Then NC State, projected as a 9 seed. Missouri, Miami, SMU, and NC State, basically like a point. That's a game. Then you have, I think, 5 games that are all within a point. UCLA, projected as a 10 seed. That's where Dunham Dent is currently. Texas A&M, which is, I believe, where Evan Mia, where we'll get into that in a second, where I did some literal bracket simulations. They're projected as a 10 seed right now. So if the Aggies are in the 7 line, they could face Texas A&M. So 0.83 point margin. Clemson, an 8 seed, and then Georgia and Texas, 2 teams that Haslametrics would have the Aggies beating by 0.09. About as close to essentially a tie as you can get. And then of all of the 8 to 10 seed matchups, there are 2 that Haslametrics projects as a loss in a neutral site matchup, and that is St. Louis, which he has the Aggies losing by 1.29, and then Iowa, 1.95, so essentially 2 points. And St. Louis is projected as an 8 seed by Bracket Matrix. Iowa is projected as a 9 seed. So there's that. Now here, and again, I went to Evan Mia, evanmia.com, and he has this bracket simulation where just using his rankings, but there's also some variants where you can just create a random bracket simulation and you go through it and a lot of different things change. And I simulated 20 times to see how far the Aggies would go. And in that matchup, it was the same seeding for everyone every time. There was no variance in the seeding.
Okay.
So I had the Aggies as a 7 seed going up against 10 seed Texas A&M, as I kind of mentioned earlier. And in the second round, they would face, I think Illinois made it to the second round every single time, at least every time I paid attention to it. How many times out of 20 do you think the Aggies got out of the second round?
Illinois has a great scorer.
They're one of the best offenses in the country. Not as super high in defense, but they do have one of the best offenses.
I'd say of 20 simulations, maybe Utah State got out of this with a win, I'll say 3 times.
3 times. You're 3 too high.
Oh, wow.
They did not make it out a single time in all. I expected it to happen once or twice or something like that, but they were actually they were exactly 50-50 on getting out of the first round. 10 times they won against Texas A&M, 10 times they did not. And heck, I don't think Texas A&M ended up beating Illinois in any of those matchups either. So Illinois apparently really strong against the Aggies, and well, both Aggies. It's a matchup about the Aggies. Well, that would be interesting. I just realized, because if the Aggies face Texas A&M, if Utah State faces Texas A&M, it'd be a rematch of the football game, which obviously went really well for Texas A&M as opposed to Utah State.
Right.
See if the basketball game would go any better. But yeah, and that's kind of what drew me to then look at, what are the projected margins for the Aggies against 1s and 2 seeds. And yeah, there's a lot of games that don't go particularly well. Haslametrics has the Aggies losing by 15 to Michigan, 13 to Duke, by 10 to Arizona or Florida, by 9, almost 10 to Illinois, by Houston, losing to Houston by 7.5. Although Michigan State and UConn, they're both close-ish. UConn, a projected 1 seed, is only a 5-point margin. So kind of interesting there. Michigan State by 6.2 points. So